The store was crowded, buzzing with weekend shoppers, when Denise Carter strolled through the aisles, a simple basket hooked over her arm. To anyone watching, she was just another woman picking up bread, milk, and cereal. But to the two store security guards lurking by the cameras, she looked like a suspect. Within minutes, their call summoned two police officers, who marched straight toward her. "Ma'am, step aside," one ordered, voice sharp, hand already hovering near his cuffs. Denise frowned. "Is there a problem?" "You've been seen shoplifting," the other officer snapped. Heads turned. A few shoppers froze mid-step. One mother pulled her child closer. Denise stood tall, refusing to shrink. Her bag was light, her receipt visible, yet no one asked to see it. Instead, they grabbed her arms. Calmly, silently, she allowed it, unaware they'd just made the biggest mistake of their careers. The air outside crackled with whispers as Denise Carter stood pressed against the cold hood of a patrol car, steel biting at her wrists. The flashing red and blue lights painted her face in harsh streaks, a silent siren calling everyone's attention. Dozens of eyes bore into her, some curious, some judgmental, some quietly recording with their phones. To the world, she was just another black woman caught stealing. To the officers, she was an easy arrest, a number to add to the report. But what no one realized was that Captain Denise Carter wasn't just a shopper. She was a decorated officer with 15 years of service, a leader in internal affairs, and someone who had put dirty cops behind bars. Her chest rose and fell evenly, hiding the fire inside. She knew better than to resist. Resisting gave them excuses, reasons to twist the narrative. Instead, she let the cuffs bite, her silence heavy with purpose. "Got her," one officer muttered to the other, puffing his chest out like he'd just won a prize. Denise glanced sideways, her eyes sharp. "This is what it feels like, doesn't it?" she thought. To be assumed guilty before a word is spoken. To be humiliated before facts are checked. Shoppers began murmuring. A teenager whispered, "She didn't take anything. I saw her pay." But his voice was drowned out by the heavy authority of uniforms and flashing lights. One officer yanked her bag open and dug through it carelessly. Bread. Milk. Cereal. A receipt fluttered to the ground, ignored. He looked disappointed, almost annoyed there was no stolen merchandise. "Still," he said, "we'll sort it out at the station." Denise's jaw tightened. Protocol broken. No evidence. Pure bias. She had trained recruits better than this. She had signed off on lectures about community trust. And yet here she was, treated like a criminal because of nothing more than the color of her skin. She heard a woman gasp nearby, "My God, they didn't even check first." Another whispered, "Poor thing. She's terrified." But Denise wasn't terrified. She was calculating. Every word, every movement, every careless act of misconduct, they were all being documented in her mind, as sharp and precise as the case files stacked on her desk back at headquarters. For now, she allowed the farce to continue. She let them lead her toward the patrol car, cameras flashing in the crowd. Her silence was not weakness, it was strategy. Because soon, when her badge came into the light, the entire narrative would collapse. And the officers who mocked her, restrained her, and dragged her through the crowd without evidence, would learn that justice does not always come quietly. Sometimes, it waits, patient and steady, until the perfect moment to strike. The patrol car door slammed shut behind Denise, the metallic thud echoing like a verdict. Inside, the smell of worn leather and stale coffee mixed with the sharp tang of adrenaline. The cuffs dug deeper into her wrists, but she sat perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the smeared glass of the window. Outside, the crowd hadn't dispersed. Dozens of cell phones pointed like weapons, capturing every second. A woman shouted, "Check her bag, she paid." A man added, "This is racial profiling." But the officers didn't look back. They were too focused on the win they thought they had scored. Officer Miller, the younger of the two, slid into the driver's seat. His partner, Officer Graves adjusted his vest and smirked. Textbook collar. She thought she was slick. Denise finally spoke, her voice even. What's your probable cause? Graves shot her a glare through the partition. Lady, we had a report. Matches your description. That's good enough for us. Description? Her tone sharpened. What description? Black woman with groceries? Miller shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Denise recognized it instantly, the look of someone who knew this didn't feel right but lacked the backbone to speak up. She'd seen it before, in rookies who let bad habits harden into corruption. You'll want to stop talking, Graves snapped. Everything you say is on record. Denise allowed a small smile. Good. I want it on record. The car lurched forward, sirens off, lights still flashing. As they pulled out of the parking lot, she noticed more bystanders recording, shouting after them. A chant began faintly, "Let her go! Let her go!" The voices trailed off as distance swallowed the crowd. Inside the car, tension thickened. Miller cleared his throat. We should have double-checked the bag. Graves cut him off. She had the goods. I saw her stash them. Denise tilted her head. Did you? Or did you just see what you wanted to see? The silence that followed was sharp. Graves gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles pale. Denise leaned back, the cuffs still biting. Her voice dropped, low and deliberate. You've made a mistake. A serious one. And the problem with mistakes like this? They don't just disappear. They leave trails, paper trails, video trails, accountability trails. You sure you want to be at the end of that trail? Miller shifted again, sweat beading on his temple. Graves scoffed, but Denise could feel his confidence thinning, his arrogance cracking at the edges. They pulled up to the precinct, the night air cooler now, the glow of fluorescent lights spilling across the pavement. Officers at the entrance paused as they saw her escorted inside, murmurs already rising. Some recognized her, though they said nothing. Denise walked with her head high, every step measured. Her silence had become a presence, a weight pressing down on the men who thought they were in control. Soon, the truth would come crashing down. And when it did, the spectacle they thought was their triumph would become their undoing. The holding room was cold, painted a sterile gray that matched the mood of every suspect who'd ever sat there. Denise Carter sat perfectly upright in the metal chair, her hands still cuffed, her eyes steady on the one-way mirror. She knew the drill. Behind that glass, officers were watching, whispering, laughing. She'd been on their side of the glass countless times. Tonight, the roles had reversed. Graves swaggered into the room first, file folder in hand. Miller trailed behind, his nervous energy clinging to him like a shadow. Graves dropped the folder onto the table with a thud. Here's the deal. You admit what you took, we keep it simple. Maybe a fine, maybe probation. You fight it? You're looking at a felony. Denise arched a brow. A felony, for groceries I purchased? Interesting. Graves smirked, mistaking her calm for weakness. Don't play smart. We've seen this before. You people think you can beat the system. But I've got witnesses. Miller shifted in his seat, avoiding her gaze. Denise locked eyes with him anyway. Did you see me steal, Officer Miller? Or did you just follow orders? His throat bobbed. We had a call. Said a woman matching your description concealed items. My description. Denise leaned forward slightly, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. What was that? Black. Female. Breathing? That's enough for you? Miller faltered, but Graves barked, enough. Don't twist this. You're a thief, and you're going to jail. For the first time, Denise let a small laugh escape. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to unnerve them. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? Graves sneered. A shoplifter. Denise's smile widened, cold and precise. Wrong. She shifted her cuff wrists forward, the steel clinking against the table. Check my wallet. Left pocket. Unless, of course, you're afraid of what you'll find. Graves hesitated. Miller glanced at him, unsure. Finally, Miller reached over, pulling out the leather wallet. He flipped it open, expecting to find maybe a driver's license. Instead, the gold badge gleamed under the fluorescent light, polished and unmistakable. Miller froze. His eyes widened. She's... Denise finished for him. Captain Denise Carter. Internal Affairs. Graves' smirk evaporated. Color drained from his face. The room seemed to shrink, the air sucked out. Denise leaned back, her voice now carrying the authority that had been simmering beneath her calm all along. 15 years on the force. Countless cases closed. I've written reports that could bury officers twice your rank. And now, she locked eyes with Graves, I'll be writing one about you. Miller swallowed hard. Graves stammered, This is a misunderstanding. No, Denise cut him off sharply. This is misconduct. This is racial profiling. This is a disgrace to the badge we swore to uphold. The door opened. 2 higher-ranking officers stepped in, confusion on their faces as Miller, pale and sweating, held up her badge. Murmurs rippled through the hallway. Word was spreading fast. Denise stood, the cuffs still dangling from her wrists. She extended them forward. You can either take these off, or I'll add unlawful detention to the list. No one moved at first. The silence was heavier than any siren, more damning than any evidence. Finally, Miller rushed to unfasten the cuffs, his hands trembling. Denise rubbed her wrists, her eyes never leaving Graves. Congratulations, gentlemen. You've just gone from arresting a suspect to becoming suspects yourselves. The station buzzed like a kicked beehive. Word spread faster than wildfire. The woman arrested for shoplifting wasn't just anyone, she was Captain Denise Carter, Internal Affairs. Officers leaned out of doorways, whispers chased down the hall, and phones discreetly recorded. Denise walked out of the interrogation room with the cuffs dangling loosely in her hand, her badge displayed prominently. She wasn't raising her voice. She didn't have to. Authority rolled off her in waves. Behind her, Miller trailed, pale and shaken, while Graves looked like a man watching his career slip through his fingers. In the lobby, a crowd had gathered, civilians who had followed from the store, activists who'd gotten wind of the arrest, reporters clutching cameras. The footage from the arrest had already hit social media. Shoplifting arrest turns ugly, the headlines read. Now the truth was unfolding live. The moment Denise stepped into the open, voices erupted. Captain Carter, someone shouted. She's a cop? They cuffed their own? Denise raised a hand, and the noise fell to a murmur. Her presence commanded silence. I was arrested tonight, she began, her voice clear, carrying across the lobby. Not because I stole anything. Not because of evidence. But because I fit a description. She let the words hang, sharp and cutting. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A woman near the front cried out, That's what they do to all of us. Graves muttered under his breath, This is out of control. Denise turned, her gaze pinning him. Out of control? No, Officer Graves. You are out of control. You violated protocol, ignored evidence, and humiliated an innocent woman in public. And worse, you did it under the assumption that no one would question you. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras zoomed in. She lifted the cuffs, holding them up for all to see. These were placed on me without cause. Tonight, they became symbols of something bigger. They are not just restraints, they are reminders of how easily power can be abused when accountability is absent. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some chanting, Justice! Justice! Miller looked ready to crumble. He stepped forward, voice cracking. I didn't want to. Denise cut him off gently. Then next time, don't stay silent. Silence makes you complicit. The chief of police finally arrived, face pale as the scene unfolded on live streams. Captain Carter, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Denise didn't flinch. No, Chief. Privately is how problems like this get buried. Tonight won't be buried. It will be documented, investigated, and corrected. The chief hesitated, but the cameras were merciless. He could only nod stiffly. Denise turned back to the crowd, her voice firm. I will be filing a full internal affairs report on the misconduct of Officers Graves and Miller. And let this stand as a reminder, no one is above accountability. Not even those who wear the badge. The cheers were deafening now. Graves tried to slip away, but reporters blocked him with flashing cameras. Miller stood frozen, shame written across his face. Denise lowered the cuffs onto the chief's desk with a deliberate clang. These belong to the guilty. And tonight, that's not me. The station pulsed with energy, the story already spilling across the city like wildfire. For the officers who had dared to treat her like a criminal, the true trial had just begun. By morning, the video had gone viral. Millions of views, thousands of shares, hashtags blazing across every platform, hashtag Captain Carter, hashtag Justice in Uniform, hashtag Profiling Exposed. Denise Carter sat in her office, the city skyline glowing behind her. She wasn't celebrating, she was processing. The weight of the previous night lingered, heavy yet purposeful. She had always known bias existed within the force, but rarely had it been displayed so blatantly, so recklessly, against one of their own. Her phone buzzed endlessly, reporters, activists, even old colleagues offering support. Yet one message stood out. A young woman had written, "Last night, I saw myself in you. I've been profiled too. Thank you for standing tall when they tried to break you." Denise exhaled slowly. That was why she had stayed calm. Why she had chosen silence when anger burned hot in her chest. Because her fight wasn't just for her, it was for everyone who had ever been reduced to a stereotype. At the precinct, fallout came swiftly. Officer Graves was suspended pending investigation. Miller, though spared immediate suspension, was reassigned to mandatory retraining and placed under review. The chief, pressured by the tidal wave of public outrage, held a press conference, acknowledging misconduct and pledging reforms. But the true victory wasn't in the suspensions or headlines. It was in the shift Denise saw rippling through the department. Officers walked a little more carefully, spoke a little more thoughtfully, realizing that accountability was no longer a shadow in the corner, it was standing in the middle of the room, badge shining. Later that evening, Denise addressed a community gathering. Cameras rolled, but she spoke not to the lenses, but to the people. I was treated like a criminal last night, not because of what I did, but because of how I looked, she said plainly. I've worn this badge for 15 years. I've trained officers, led investigations, and sworn to uphold the law. And still, my skin color made me suspect first, captain second. The crowd murmured, many nodding, some wiping tears. This isn't about me, Denise continued. It's about what happens in silence, when no badge appears to stop it. It's about the young man pulled over on his way home. The mother followed in a store. The teenager accused without evidence. We cannot fix what we refuse to face. And last night, the world was forced to face it. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. Justice doesn't begin when the cuffs go on. It begins with how we see one another. And until that changes, no system, no badge, no law will ever be enough. The audience rose to their feet in thunderous applause. Denise didn't smile, she stood steady, resolved. For her, this wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of a fight she had been preparing for her entire life.